Hey guys, how's it going? Ben here from Udon Classroom, and let me make a promise to you that by the end of this video, you're going to be able to read this piece of Japanese right here on screen. Now what an achievement! Whether it's your first time coming into Japanese thinking, how the hell do I do this? Or whether you've been studying for a while and want to refresh, this video is going to be perfect for you. So sit back, get yourself a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and let's get right into it, guys. What an accomplishment for today. Let's go!
日本語を勉強しましょう。うどん、うどん、うどん。うどん教室へようこそ。始めるぞ。
So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at three different reading systems. The three reading systems and writing systems that I used in Japanese to kind of convey everything. And the first one that we're going to learn today is Hiragana. Now this is made up of 46 different characters, and actually you could read and write completely with Hiragana, it would be fine, although eventually as you get more sophisticated and advanced in Japanese it would become very hard and slow you down, and there might be some meanings in there that other writing systems would help out much better for. So Hiragana is the one we're going to be focused on today, and the one that we're going to be learning. And within Hiragana is 46 different characters, and each character has a different sound. Now the main focus of Hiragana in Japanese language is to identify different parts of grammar. So it kind of identifies something in the past tense, the present tense, continuous tense, that kind of thing. But it's super helpful and definitely the best one to start with, so we're going to go with that today. But as a quick overview, we'll just look at the next two just so you understand the uses of those as well. So the next is the Katakana, which is just like the Hiragana. It's kind of like the brother of the Hiragana, if you like, and that's also made up of 46 different characters, and they all have the same noises as the Hiragana. However, with the Katakana, it's mainly used to represent words that have been borrowed from other different languages. So Hiragana probably much more useful for a start off. However, Katakana is going to be the next thing we're going to learn in the next video, so keep an eye out for that. Lastly, and probably the most difficult one, well not probably, definitely the most difficult one, is Kanji. Now this is made up of thousands and thousands of different characters, and these came over from China many years ago. And what these do is signify different meanings of words. So for example, in Japanese there will be words that sound the same, but the kanji lets you identify which meaning it actually was, and it really helps by speeding up the reading process, and generally when it comes to digesting text, kanji, once you learn it and become more advanced in Japanese, is going to help you just tremendously. It's really good. So what we're going to do now is move over to the Hiragana chart and take a look at all of these different sounds and different characters, okay? From this simple chart, you can see that each different character has a different sound, and the more you practice these sounds and get them right now, the better and more natural your Japanese is going to sound. So the whole of the Japanese language is essentially based off these 46 different sounds, really. So for example, the top row we have a, I, u, e, o, and then next we have ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, and so on and so on. So what we're going to do is really focus kind of on a row by row today. And we're going to employ some great techniques to help you remember these, and I promise you it's so rewarding to learn these in just one session, and once you've learnt it, it'll give you so much inspiration and motivation to move on with your Japanese. It'll kind of light a fire and help you to progress further. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at that first Hiragana, the a, and we're going to look at a way of how we can remember it. There'll be kind of some mini challenges as we move on, so I would definitely recommend either having a notepad or writing something down on a Word document, something like that as you go, but feel free to rewatch the video and pause things if we're moving a little bit too fast. So let's get right into it. The first Hiragana that we're going to take a look at is a. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to take a picture, and please bear with me guys because some of these are going to get a little bit weird, but we're going to take this picture and we're going to use that to remember the shapes and how the Hiragana looks, and also link that with the sound as well, so the a. So let's have a look at the first example just to see how this is going to work. So if you take a look at that first Hiragana, we have a, Now, if you look closely at the picture, we can also almost see a kind of a sword shape here, just stabbing right through the image. And the kind of bottom part of the image looks like a fish, loosely. So I'll put some diagrams on the screen so you can see that. And now just imagine the fish just going, ah, ah. And that's how you're going to remember these, at least to start. Those, as you become better and more efficient at remembering these, and you've used them time and time again, those pictures will disappear and you'll just remember them naturally, like how you can kind of read English letters. But just for the beginning, this is a good way to remember and differentiate between different hiraganas. So that's how we're going to remember the first one, and that is A. So let's have a look at the second one, which is I. I. And now, although this kind of pronunciation has an I, usually, and you would think, oh, is that not I? It's actually I. So A, I, A, I. Now, if you take a look at this hiragana, we can see that it kind of looks like two eels, okay? Two slithery, slippery little eels next to each other, and that starts with I, the sound I. So A, I. Okay, so that's how we'll remember that one. We're going to move on now to the next hiragana, which is U. So we have A, I, and now U. U. So for this one, it kind of looks like a normal U shape turned kind of around. So you can see that there by the diagram. And then we have this little kind of dash on there just to make it kind of, I guess, sophisticated, a bit cool, a bit pretty. And it kind of gives it that ooh la la factor to it. So the ooh from ooh la la. So we have the ooh on its side, which isn't enough because we need a little flick on the top. So it adds that ooh la la to the picture. So now we have A, I, and ooh. So we only have two more in this first row. So you're doing great, guys. Let's keep going. So the it looks like I think personally, it looks like a little duck that's kind of got its head to the side, and it's like, and it's kind of confused. So it's a confused duck, really. So that's quite an abstract one, but that's how I remember that one. And then the last one, which is O. So we've had A, I, U, E, and now we have O. Now O looks like a bicycle that has lost a part of the wheel, and you're like, oh, my bicycle's broke. My bicycle's broken. Oh no. So that's how we're going to remember these first five. So if you can think of better ways to remember them yourself, then please go ahead. By all means, don't stick with mine if you can think of something better. However, the more extreme, probably the better you're going to be able to remember these. So now we've got A, I, U, E, and O. We want to make sure that you guys can actually read these now and put these into practice. So what we're going to do is put some Japanese words on screen that only use hiragana or different sounds from these first five hiraganas that we've just learned. So the first one we have is I. So we're combining A and I to make I. Okay, so A, I. And in Japanese, this means love. So there we go, it's your first Japanese word. So this is essentially how easy it can be to read in Japanese. So that's our first word. Let's have a look at another word that you can use now from your knowledge and try and read what this says on screen. Okay, so take a quick look. Now, what do you think? Can you pronounce that? Do you remember which hiragana we have here? So remember, if we have the U, which we learnt, the U turned on its side to make the ooh la la, and then we have E, the kind of confused duck, E, and now that becomes together ue, ue. The sounds join together and become ue, ue, and that means above in Japanese, above something. So great, you've learned to read your second word. We'll try one more word, just see if you can read this one. So I'm going to put this on screen now. Okay. Bit of a difficult one, this one. We have three different hiragana. So what do you think this says? Well, this reads aoi, aoi, a, o, I, aoi. And this means, this will describe something as blue. So this is a way you can describe something as blue. It's an adjective. Aoi, aoi, aoi. So yeah, now you've mastered kind of the first row, really. So congratulations, you can now use the 5 hiragana from the first row. So well done, guys. We're going to move on now to the second row, which is the ka, ki, ku, ke, ko row. And what you might notice here is there's a pattern. So the first we had a, I, u, e, o. Now we have ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. So only the first kind of letter has changed here in the way we pronounce things. So instead of a, it's ka. So let's have a look at ka now straight away. So what does ka look like? So to remember ka, I think it looks like a woman doing the can. You know, there's kind of like a shape of the legs, and there's like a shoe flicking off in the top. So that's how I remember the ka for can ka. So the next we have ki. So we've had ka, now we have ki. And ki, simple one, just looks like a key. Okay, like a crazy skeleton key that you might find in a horror movie, or, you know, looks pretty scary, but it's cool. It's a key. It's like a hook key. So we've had ka, we've had ki, and now we need to have ku. So with ku, we have another bird reference. Okay, I apologize, but this looks really a lot like a bird with an open mouth with a beak. I mean, it's just going cuckoo, cuckoo, and that is ku. Okay. Next, we have ka, ki, ku, ke. Okay, so this one is ke. And for this one, we're going to use the reference of kendo, which is a Japanese sport involving a wooden sword. So it looks here like we've got 2 swordsmen going into battle. We have kind of one on the right side holding the sword, getting ready to fight. And then on the other side, we have just another sword on its own, flying around. I don't know. But that is ke for kendo, okay? Great. Now we're going to move on to ko. And this one looks like 2 worms. 2 worms kind of surrounding each other, like little snakes going around each other. And they're going to KO each other. Okay, they're looking to fight. They're looking to KO each other. So there's going to be a big brawl between these 2 worms. Okay, it's going to be a bloodbath. But they're looking to KO each other. Ko. So I like that one anyway. So that's ka, ki, ku, ke, and ko. So that is the second line completely done. And much like the first line, we're going to now go ahead again and do a practice reading exercise to make sure that you can read them, understand them, and kind of have a go by yourself. So let's have a look at that first one. So the first one we have kiku. So I'm just going to help you off there with that first one. We have ki, which we learned looks like a skeleton key, and then we have ku, which looks like the bird going cuckoo, cuckoo. And this is a verb in Japanese which means to listen. Okay, so it means you can listen to something. So that's a very useful word to remember from today's lesson. So if you want to take some notes of the vocabulary we're learning as well, please feel free. It'll be nice to know. But that's the first one. So I'm going to put the second one on screen now, and I want you to try and read that. Just kind of take your time. You can pause the video if it goes too fast, but here we go. Okay, so this one is kaku, which is another Japanese verb which means to write. So we've had kiku, to listen, and now we've got kaku, which means to write something. Great. We're going to have a look at one more example now from the ka, ki, ku, ke, ko row. So please try and read this one. Great. So this one, if you got it, congratulations. We're using another hiragana from the first row now. We're starting to be able to expand the things we can say with now, because we know 10 hiragana. We can bring in different rows. So now we have koe. Koe, this is koe, which means voice in Japanese. My voice, your voice, you know, very useful. So really good job, guys. That is the second row done. So now you know a, I, u, e, o, ka, ki, ku, ke, and ko. Well done. We're going to move over to the next row right now. Now take a look closely at this next row. It begins with sa, shi, su, se, and so. Okay, much like ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, a, I, u, e, o, but now we have sa, shi, su, se, and so. Okay, we're making music here, guys. So this is sa. So it looks like a fish hook, right? So you can see this hook that's come down, and it's kind of caught something here. What could it be? Could it be something beginning with sa? Could it be a salmon? Perhaps. And that's why we're going with salmon for sa. So it's a fish hook and it's hooked a salmon. Sa. Great. We're going to move on to the next one now. So next we have she. Okay. So imagine, you know, your girlfriend, your sister, your mother, and she's wearing some nice earrings. She is wearing some amazing earrings. Okay. They look beautiful. She has these new fashionable earrings that look amazing. I want some of those. So that's how we're going to remember she. Now we're going to move on to Sue. Imagine you're at some kind of theme park, water park, right? And you're with your friend Sue. And you're crawling up to the top of this tower. And you're ready to go down. And then Sue's like, no, I'm backing out. I'm backing out. There's no way I'm going down there. So you push her off. Okay, and she goes all the way down this little loop. And woo, she's off. She breaks her leg, unfortunately, and now she's going to sue you. So Sue is going to sue you for pushing you down this crazy long slide. So unfortunate. But there's a silver lining because now you can remember Sue. Good. Now we have Se. Se. Looks like a sexy vampire. Like kind of on the side. Mouth open. Little fang coming out. It's sexy, guys. You know that's sexy. So Se. There we go. And then the last one, we've had Sa, She, Su, and Se. Now it's time for So. Now, So, it's kind of easy. It looks like a backwards S. Okay. So it looks like a backwards S. So, it's So. Take some time to think about that. It's a little tricky, but, you know. Sa, She, Su, Se, So. Great job. Let's have a little test right now. So remember, we're going to be pulling things from other previous rows as well. So how about this word here? What do you think that is? What's the first one? Could it be Sa? Yes. Well done. How about the second one from the last row? Oh yes. Well done. This is Ke. Sake. Sake. Which you might have heard many times because it's a great way to say alcohol in Japanese. It's also a traditional Japanese spirit alcohol. Sake. Sake. So there we go. Amazing. Well done. And let's have a look at the next one. Okay. What is this? 100 points if you get this. Yes, correct. This was Soko. Soko. So we have So, the backwards S, so it's a backwards S, and then we have Ko, the two worms getting ready to KO each other. Bang, bang, bang. Soko. Good. Okay, we're going to move on to the next row. Okay, stay with us, guys. We're almost halfway through. You've got this. You've already learnt loads today, but let's keep going. Now we have a new row, which is Ta, Chi, Tsu, Te, and To. Okay, so a little bit of a difference here. So before we had Sa, She, we had Ka, Ki, A, I, but this time it's not Ti, it's Ta, Chi, Tsu, Te, To. Let's try and remember those now. So the first one we're going to look at is Ta, which looks like a flag. Flag flying high in the sky. And it's not just any flag, it's the flag of Thailand. Ta, Ta, Thailand. So that's how we'll remember the first one. So get that noted down. Now we have Chi, which looks kind of like a 5. It looks like kind of like a 5 in number, right? So think of 5 different cheeses that you love. Mature cheddar, brie. Could be a bit of Stilton. Whatever you guys like, just remember 5 cheeses for this hiragana. Now we're moving on to Tsu. Tsu. So although it sounds a bit like the previous one we've learned, which is Su, this is Tsu. Tsu. So more of a t, t, t rather than a s, s, s. Not Su, but Tsu. Tsu. And this looks like a cartoon nose that's sneezing. Atsu! Tsu! Tsu! Atsu! Great. That's a good one, guys. We've learned that now. Now we have Te, which kind of looks like a T. And what does T spell? With an EN at the end? 10. So, you know, Te, 10. That could be a good way to go for this one. Maybe not the best, but it's kind of cool. Next, we have the last one, which is To, To, which looks like a toe. You can see a little toe in the corner. And someone's kind of maybe put a knife or a nail through the toe. Sorry for the aggression on these ones. But it's a good way. It's a vivid way to remember and get the imagination flowing. So yeah, that one is to. So now we've had ta, chi, tsu, te, to. Let's have a little test to make sure you can remember these and try and get you used to using them and reading things. So have a look at this first word that we're putting on screen here. What do you think this is? Good. So this is take, which means bamboo in Japanese. So good that we're taking the ke from the kakiku keko row, and now we have ta, the first hiragana we've just learned from this row. So the ta, remember, it was the Thailand flag. Ta. Now take a look at this next one. See what you think. Yes, this one is teki. So the te here, remember, it looks like the T for 10, te, and then ki, which looked like a skeleton key from before. So teki, which means enemy in Japanese. Great, so now we've done the whole line of the ta. And how many have we learned so far? So we've learned 20 there. So 20 just in a short amount of time. You're doing really well. And now we're going to learn the next 5. So we're looking at the line, which is, we've done ta, so now we're going to learn the na line. So we have the na, ni, nu, ne, and no. Okay, so the first one that we have here, we've already had ko, which was like 2 fighting worms. Now we're going to have na, which is like 2 fighting snakes fighting each other. Okay, we have one curled up in the corner, like it's ready to pounce, and then we have the other one at the top is ready to attack. And they're both like, I'm gonna bite your head off. And the other one's like, nah, I'm gonna bite your head off. And the other one's like, nah, I'm gonna bite your head off. And then he bites his head off, and then you can see it kind of flying over. So that's na. Now we have ni, which looks like a needle and a thread. Really simple one, this, guys. We have the needle on the left, and then on the right we have the kind of, you know, little thread or whatever you call it. I don't do any sewing. I've never done any sewing. Maybe I should. Maybe I should get into that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's ni. Now we have nu, which is like a fish jumping out of a fish bowl into a new bowl. So if you look at the shape, it looks like a fish. It's left a little trail as it's jumped over into its new bowl. Okay, so that's nu. The next one, which is ne. Now, ne. Good way to remember this one is the shape. And let's take a look at the shape closely. Now, the ne here kind of looks like a cat. We have a little tail at the side, and we have the kind of cat in a little position, you know, he's looking cute. And in Japanese, if you've done anything in like anime or anything like that, you might know that neko is Japanese for cat. And the ne is a great way to remember that. Ne, neko. So that's a good one. So na, ni, nu, ne. Now we need to do no. Now it doesn't take much imagination to look at this one and think this looks like a stop sign or something that's saying no, not. Okay, so the pronunciation is not no, it's no, no, na, ni, nu, ne, no. Okay, so let's do a little test now, guys, and see if you can get these right. So how about this one? Good. So this was nani. We have the na and the ni to make nani, which means what in Japanese. Good. Let's have a look at another one. Great. So this is inu. So you might remember the 2 eels from the beginning. I. Now we have nu, which is like the fish jumping into the fish bowl. Inu. This is great, and this means dog in Japanese. So well done, guys. Doing really good on the reading here. We're really going through them. So the more you practice kind of reading, the faster you'll get. But we're going to talk at the end more about some different tips and tricks that you guys can use to get better and get faster at reading the different hiragana, and eventually move over into some more complex sentences as we go along. So now we're going to go and look at the ha, hi, fu, he, ho line. The first one we have is ha, which already kind of looks like an H, a capitalized H. And then we have a little A inside that as well, which spells ha. So pretty easy. Now we're going to look at he. So this is the nose of somebody who looks sad, right? A bit like Squidward. And he is sad. He's got a sad nose, so he's sad. That's it. Now we have fu, which looks like three, if you can see three ninjas doing kung fu. So imagine the three, and then we have two little chops, three ninjas doing some kung fu, ha he fu. Great. Now we have he. Okay, and he looks like a mountain, and it's tall as heck. Heck. It's tall as heck. And finally, we have ho, which looks like a mutated Santa Claus trying to get down a chimney. Okay, and I think it just speaks for itself, really. I didn't really need to say that. You could probably see that already. It's obvious, but I'll illustrate that now just so you can see that. And ho, Santa Claus. Ho. So it's not ho, it's ho. Ha, he, fu, he, ho. Good. So now we're going to do some reading on this. So take a look at these different examples and try and read them. So here's the first one. So we see that mutated Santa Claus for ho, and then we have the earrings that she was wearing. So hoshi, which means star. Great, good job. Let's try the last one for the H line. Okay, and if I didn't mention earlier, it's not ha he hu, but ha he fu. Okay, because hu is kind of a weird word. I guess it just doesn't work. So fu is the one we're going for here. Remember the kung fu, and then we have the ne, which looks like the cat neko. So fune, which means ship or boat in Japanese. If you want to take some time to digest, just pause the video. But for now, we're going to move on into the next line, which is the ma, mi, mu, me, mo line. We're going to need to speed this up a little bit, make sure it gets into the 30 minutes, but don't worry, timing's not everything. I'm wasting time saying this right now. So let's go on to ma, and it's like a ma, your ma, she's got her arms wide open, she's like, give me a hug, son, give me a hug, and she's got a mutated tail, she's a monster, just like the Santa Claus, but you know, this is your ma, so you'll come and give her a hug. Me looks like a 4. Don't you see? Me looks like a 4. Is that for me? For me? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. So that was me. Now we're going to look at mu. Ma, mi, mu. Okay, and mu looks like a ship that's moving you somewhere. So it's moving you somewhere. You're in that little ship. You can see the little deck and stuff, and there's like something that's flew off the ship. I don't know what that is. Maybe it was one of your shipmates that you've thrown overboard, but that is mu, essentially. Now we have me, and me also means eye in Japanese. So I think this kind of looks like an eye. It's gone a bit wrong, but you know, it's a me eye. You've seen better eye, so this eye is a little bit meh. So you know, meh. It's a meh eye. And finally, we have mo, which again, we're going to go back to the fish hook reference, but this time we've hooked more than before. We've hooked more than before, so we use mo. The sa looked pretty similar. I only had one. Okay, so mo has more salmon, maybe. So this fisherman is much better. More fish. More. Great. So now let's have a look at the reading exercise. So here we go. First one. Bosh. Cool, so this one should have been relatively easy. It's the same hiragana twice. Momo, which means peach. Okay, it means peach. Let's have a look at the next one. Good, so this is nama, which means raw in Japanese. Well done again, guys. That is almost the last full row of 5. We're going to move on to a row of just 3 now with ya, you, and yo. Okay, so ya looks like a yak. You can see the horns, and it looks like a yak, right? So that's ya for yak. Simple. Now we have you, which looks like a fish, and I think you look like a fish in a good way. In a really good way, I think you look like a fish. Take that how you will. But you look like a fish. So that's a good way to remember that one. Now we have yo. Now what does this look like? So this looks like you can see the base of a planet, right? You can see the base of a planet at the bottom. And then we have a flag on there. So yo, bang. You've put a flag on this planet and you're like, yo, I'm the first guy to put the flag on the moon. I'm the first guy to put the flag on this planet. Yo. Okay, you're just proud. You're proud of it. So well done, you. Now, quick look at the reading exercise. We'll do this quickly. Boom. Good. So we have you, look like a fish. And then the ki from earlier looks like a ki. Yuki, which means snow in Japanese. Good. Now we're going to look at another reading exercise. Great. So we have the yo from yo, this is my planet. And then we have the mu, which looks like a ship that's moving you. Okay, remember that one? So yomu, which means to read in Japanese. So another great verb there to remember. Great job, guys. We're now moving straight on to the last full row of 5. The last 5 hiragana in one row. So that is ra, ri, ru, re, ro. So what is this first one? What is ra? What does that look like? How can we remember this? So ra looks like the roaring mouth of a lion. I'll put the diagram on screen to help that a bit better. But ra, ra, ra. The lion is going ra. Yeah, you know, you got that, you got that. Ri, it looks like the beak of a regal eagle. A posh regal eagle. Lots of animals coming in the ra and ri and roux. What do we have now? We have a roux, which looks like a car. You're in a car and it's taking you on some kind of crazy route. Ooh, you're going crazy, like you're going down this crazy path and it flicks you over, and it's roux for route. You're going down a crazy route. Okay. Then we have re, ra, ri, ru, re. Okay. And re looks like a snake coming to rescue you. Okay, you're stuck on a pole, you're really high up, and this snake has come to rescue you. It kind of slithers around, it comes on the pole, and it's like, come down, come with me. And you're like, okay, I will. And that is re. Now lastly, we have ro, which kind of looks like roux without the little crazy root thing at the bottom. But I think it looks like a 3. And just imagine 3 people rowing a boat, you know, just rowing down the river. Row, row, row your boat. And 3 people rowing. Okay, there was 4, but we threw him off. So that is ro. Okay, now we only have 3 hiragana left, but before that we're going to do the quick test. Okay, so how about this one? Do you know? Yes, you do know. It is kore, which means this in Japanese. Now how about this next one? It's a difficult one. We're going to use 3 hiragana, but here we go. 1. Aruku. Aruku. We have a, ru, and ku, which means to walk in Japanese. So well done, guys. You've now mastered 43 hiragana. Maybe not mastered, but you know them at least. It'll take some time. Don't feel like you have to rush this. Just make sure that you are practicing quite a lot, and it will definitely come. So the last 3 we're going to look at are wa, o, and n. Okay, so these are the last 3 that we're going to look at. So wa looks like a wasp. It's got like a little body at the front and a big wing at the back. It looks like a wasp that's kind of flying around. It's buzzing around. You're like, get away from me, you wasp. Wa for wasp, wasp. Wa. Then we have o, o. So this kanji looks crazy. And I think it looks like a person being sick. And you're like, whoa. Don't be sick on me, please. Whoa. So rather than wo, actually, the pronunciation is wo. So remember that. Like no is not, and wo is what. Wa, o, It's kind of almost just like o, but there's a little w kind of before it. But we'll come into that later. Don't worry about that too much now. Wa, o. Now we have which, you know, it's taken me ages to figure this one out. And I was going through it hours thinking, what could I do for this? And then I thought, it looks like an N. So, that's what it is. Let's have a look at the final reading before we move on to the next part of the lesson. So, can you read this one? Very popular word. Very commonly used word. Okay. Got it? Good. So this is watashi. Watashi. We have the wa, ta, and chi, watashi, which means I in Japanese, me. Now we have a really long one for you guys. The absolute, it's the mind buster, the brain boggler. So try and take this down. We have 5 hiraganas in one go. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. What is it? Okay, so we have the ko, which is like the worms ready to KO each other, remember? Then we have the n, which we've just learnt, so kon so far. Then we have ni, from the needle and thread, needle and thread, kon ni. Then we have the 5 different cheeses from chi, konichi. And finally we have the ha from earlier, the ha, which looks like an H with a small a. So konnichiwa, konnichiwa. And that's how you master Japanese hiragana, just like this. But we're not done yet, guys, I'm sorry to say. You're doing really well. Keep reviewing. However, there's a little bit more to go. So bear with me, but you've done the hardest part. So well done. Now, let's get into the next section. So on your Japanese journey, there's going to be a lot of different anomaly style rules that are going to throw you off and you're going to be like, why? But it's fine. That's just life, isn't it? So the first one we have is the ha that we learned earlier, which is here on screen. If you remember that, it's like the H with the A inside it. Now, when that's on its own, usually, that would be pronounced as wa, but that's mainly when it's on its own, or in words like konnichiwa. Okay, so there's only a few cases where that becomes a wa noise, but you'll learn more about that later. So if you get confused and think, hang on a minute, I learned that as ha, but now they're saying wa, that's why. It's an anomalous rule that you'll kind of come to understand a bit later, but I just want to let you know now so you don't think I've taught you wrong. Okay, so we're going to put this all together now into a reading passage that you're going to read, okay? So I'm going to put this passage on screen. Feel free to pause it and try and read that for yourself. And then I'm going to read along with you. It's a great way to actually learn this. So here we go. We're going to put what we know to the test and see if we can read it. So here is the passage. Great, if you've already paused that and had a read through, fantastic. If not, and you want to just read with me, that's fine. So we're going to read this now. So we have Konnichiwa. Kyou no tenki wa ii ne. Kore wa. So remember earlier we said sometimes if you see ha on its own, it's pronounced as wa. So in this case, it is the wa, as it's a particle. But we'll talk more about that later. So kore wa watashi no yasashi otou-san. Otou-san to koen ni iku. Okay, great. So that's your first Japanese sentence. Okay, your first big piece of text that you've read and you've been able to read. So take some time to practice. You might have noticed there was a small hiragana there in the first line, which we are going to talk a little bit more about in the coming minutes. So just at normal speed, this would be Konnichiwa, kyou no tenki wa ii ne. Kore wa watashi no yasashi otou-san. Otou-san to koen ni iku. So if you keep practicing, you can kind of build up your speed and get better. Just make sure that you don't compromise on your pronunciation as you move. And then that way you'll be able to develop a better accent in Japanese. So great. We're now going to move over to a bit more of an advanced class now. So there's a few more rules surrounding the hiragana that we need to look at and assess. So the first is combining hiragana. Now, sometimes hiragana are combined together with a smaller version of the same hiragana that you've just learnt. So let's look at this as an example. If you can see here, we have a ki and a yo, but the yo is small. Now the smaller hiragana always attaches itself to the previous bigger hiragana. So, and that all that does is combine the sound together. So normally this would be, if they were both big and regular, it would be kiyo, kiyo. Okay, two separate sounds, but together with the smaller hiragana, it becomes kyo, kyo. So it's kind of mashed the noises together. So let's look at some examples here. On this one, we have kyo. So the first two become together, kyo. and then u, so kyo, kyo, which means today. Next, we have the bigger version of the hiragana, the standard version, which is just yo, and that is kiyo, kiyo. So not kyo like the first one, but kiyo. Okay, so you can kind of see how that works. Here's another example of smaller hiraganas. It doesn't work with all of them, but as you read, you'll understand which ones it does work with. So in the next example, we have shio, and in the smaller version, we have sho. Okay, so see how that sounds a little bit different. Shio and sho. Cool. So that's just a basic understanding of that feature. So you'll see that as we read, and just remember that that exists, make a note, and I'm sure you'll be able to get used to it as we carry on. Next, we're going to look at the small 2. So do you remember the small 2 from the previous line, the tachi tsu, teto, that small 2, which was like, 2, that 2, creates a small pause between two hiragana characters. Okay, so if you see the 2 in its small version, it almost creates like a double letter, the hiragana that comes before. So it's kind of just like a small pause. So for example, let's take a look here. I'm going to put some words on screen now. So the first one would be kakoi, 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 standard. But when we use the little small 2, this becomes kakoi. So you can hear that small pause, kakoi. So it's almost like a small pause for the hiragana that comes after it, kakoi. Here's another example. See if you can try it yourself first. Tota. Okay, the first one is tota, just standard. Then we have the small 2, which is tota, tota. Great. I'm going to put a few more on screen now for you to practice by yourself. So go ahead and pause the video if you like and try and make sense of that yourself. Practice makes perfect, guys. So lastly, we're moving on to the final kind of difficult thing we're going to learn today. And I promise once you've done this, that's it. You're golden. Okay, so we're going to learn this now. So take a look at this chart on screen here. And we're going to be looking at Dakuten and Dakuten. This is a little symbol in the top right of the hiragana that you've already learned that turns it into a slightly different sound. So it's not like you've got to learn new shapes or anything. It's just a case of if you recognize a small symbol in the top right of the hiragana, it will change the pronunciation ever so slightly. So we're going to look at that now, and we're going to start off with the Dakuten, which is a little small circle in the top right, and this will only appear on 5 of the hiragana, and that would be on the ha, hi, fu, he, ho row. So instead of ha, hi, fu, he, ho, this becomes pa, pi, pu, pe, and po. Simple. And that's it for the Dakuten. So if you see that, that's what it becomes. So that's great. We're now going to look at the Dakuten. So the Dakuten is like 2 small kind of marks in the top right of the hiragana that turns it into a slightly different noise, okay? And this affects 4 rows. So it affects the ka, sa, ta, and ha rows. So ka, ki, ku, ke, ko would become ga, gi, gu, ge, go. Okay, so there's a pattern here. It gives it a G sound in this case. The sa, shi, su, se, so becomes za, ji, zu, ze, and zo. And the ta, chi, tsu, te, to becomes da, di, zu, de, and do. And finally, ha, hi, fu, he, ho becomes ba, bi, bu, be, bo. Now, unfortunately, this is something that you're just going to have to write down and practice. Just remember that ka turns to ga, sa to za, ta to da, and ha to ba. And once you've mastered that, it will take about kind of a day of just kind of going through some notes every half an hour or so, and it should be ingrained in your memory. So that was the last difficult bit. So let's just try and look at a quick example for you to try and read. So take a look at this word here. So what do you think this means? Good. So the first hiragana is using that Dakuten, okay? So it turns ha into ba noises. So he, which is he, remember hek, that's a big hill, and it says he into be. So with the rest of the hiragana, this is bento, bento. So that's exactly how we read those. So I'm going to put a few more on screen now. So there is a pattern to it, as you can see, so it's not too difficult, but it just takes that bit of time to memorize. So I'm going to put some more on the screen now, and I want you to try and read them. So that was des, jozu, and danbo. Cool. Now here is a word with both the Dakuten and the Dakuten. Okay. Great. That is bumpo, bumpo. So remember to pay attention to the top right corners of the hiragana. So now we're going to look at that final piece of text. It's the grand finale. You'll be able to read it for sure after some practice. And technically, you have all the tools to know how to read that now. So I'm going to put it on screen. If you want to go away and practice again, rewatch the video, do some of your own drills and your own practice, that's great. You can come back and try and read it. But I'm going to put this on screen now, full screen, and then we're going to go through it together. Don't worry if you're a little bit overwhelmed by all of this. It does take some time, but I just want to get the principles across today. Minna, konnichiwa. Watashi no namae wa Sasaki desu. Watashi wa 22歳です。私の趣味は犬を散歩することです。英語は難しいけど本当に頑張っています。聞いてくれてありがとうございます。Great, so let's hear that again at normal speed, and this after weeks of practicing will be accessible for you guys too. So, みんなこんにちは。私の名前は佐々木です。私は22歳です。私の趣味は犬を散歩することです。英語は難しいけど本当に頑張っています。聞いてくれてありがとうございます。So great job, guys. That was a really, really good lesson for you today. Whether it's the first time coming into Japanese or you want to brush up on some hiragana, maybe you haven't done much reading or writing yet, that's great. So well done. Over time, it's just like reading music. If you've ever done that, I can't read music, but I imagine it becomes like a symphony. And it did for me anyway. After a while, it kind of becomes as easy as reading English after a while. So stick with that. Try and write everything in hiragana, even English in hiragana. You know, it can work. Just anything to get you practicing with these. So I've got some tips now just to share with you finally on how you can get faster and be a bit more comfortable with this. So practice the rows every day. This is tip 1. So write out each hiragana row by row every day, and that will really help build up your memory of those. Number 2, practice writing anything and everything in hiragana, whether it's just little notes while you're at work or typing on a computer. That brings me on to my next tip, which is to download the Japanese keyboard on your computer and on your phone. It's really simple to do, it's easy, it's free, and then you can use hiragana like we've learned straight away and start communicating. Tip number 4 is just practice reading in hiragana. Even if you don't understand the vocabulary, you'll still be able to pronounce the words, so it's some great practice for you. Guys, seriously, you've done really well today. I'm very proud of you for sticking through this. Not many people would get to the end of the video, so I know you guys are serious. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video where we'll talk about the next writing system, which is Katakana. And now you've mastered this, it should be a lot easier to go ahead and learn the Katakana system. So I hope you have a good day, guys, and I hope you got something from this, and we'll see you next time. Abayo!
日本語を勉強しましょう。うどん教室へようこそ。始めるぞ。